Good afternoon, everybody. We're being joined by our colleagues in Buenos Aires and Dakar. Hi, everybody. Somebody can, is that, how's the sound check? Let me thank in advance our interpreters. Bon fête, bon fin de l'année. Are we live? Yes? Almost. Okay. We're almost live. Okay. They're online. Okay. So, welcome to everyone in Pol de Dakar and Buenos Aires. Very happy to convene everybody for an end of year staff meeting. And I'd like to report on a few things. Especially if this works. So here's what I propose for the agenda. So come back to you on the discussions with our governing board, which convened for its 58th session, and talk about what that means for us in planning in 2019. I also want to recognize 7 colleagues from IAP Buenos Aires who will be departing at the end of the year and to wish them well. So I'll come to that. And then very briefly go over some of the big events for 2019, just the first quarter. Okay, and then we'll have time for questions and discussions if you have any additional issues that you want to raise. Okay. So this year marked a departure for the governing board. You know, in recent years, we've had a presentation of the current year program and then followed by and a discussion on the next year's program. So, and generally the team leaders from Paris and the heads of the office from Buenos Aires and Dakar will make that presentation. So this year, or rather last December, our governing board asked that we have a change, that we assume they have read the fantastic narrative report of our program and the plan for the next year, and instead focus our limited time on strategic issues. So we identified these strategic issues for the board, and I wrote a cover memo to help guide them in their reading. I want to say that the program report and the administration and finance report were both extremely well received. So although we didn't get to spend a day and a half of talking with them about all the details of the fantastic work we've done over the last year and the exciting plans for the next, we did touch on them briefly, and they were very excited. So these were the 6 issues. I'm going to give you an update on all 5, on the top 5. The 6th one I will skip. And then in addition to the strategic issues, we had an opportunity to do a brief program highlights, and there was a lot of interest, but it was much shorter time. And we also ensured that Pablo had an opportunity to address the board to give them an update. 2 years ago, we presented them with a strategy for the evolution of the office in Buenos Aires. And basically, there are 2 pieces to it. One is to reassert the geographical mandate, so to be less focused on the southern cone of South America and to actually cover all 19 countries in Latin America. And there's been tremendous progress in that front. And the second leg of that strategy is to ensure that the program is more tightly tied to the Institute's mandate. So that means not running after money because you have to pay the bills, but rather ensure that we're doing training, technical support in countries, applied research, outreach and advocacy, and it's within our mandate. And again, there's a lot of progress on that. So let me turn to the first of the strategic issues. So for last year and this year, Anna has prepared financial scenarios looking looking into future years, because you can't. IP is has a reputation for being extremely well managed, and I'm standing on the shoulders of many previous directors, so that's not, I don't take that as self praise. It's well managed and financially prudent. We have in place a lot of important safeguards to ensure the financial stability of the institute. Nonetheless, it's important to look not just at the current year or the next year, but several years in advance. So we presented some financial forecasts, and there's a lot of good news. First of all, we signed last month, I think it was November or it was early December, the new 4-year agreement with the Swiss Development Cooperation. You might recall that for the ninth medium-term strategy, the Swiss government had committed 6 million Swiss francs for over 4 years. And you can see the number now. So it's gone up from 6 million to 15 million for the current 10th MTS, which is fantastic. Some of you were involved in discussions with the Swiss. Their new education strategy overlaps very, very nicely with IEP's. We have a lot of thematic priorities, program priorities, and they're very much appreciative of the amazing work that IEP staff are doing. We also, since February, have been talking to the French bilateral about moving from budget support in their next round of funding. You recall that not budget support, project support. For many years, they have been providing extra budgetary support to Paul de Dakar. It dates back before 2013 when the Paul de Dakar joined us. And so we have seen this as hampering the evolution of the office. It's so focused on project deliverables. So we think we've been persuasive, and we will know later this week when the off-day board meets. But our hope is that they will approve core funding for the next 4 years, 10 million. We also hope it will go up from there, but we await further word. I think what you should be most proud of is the very high implementation rate for this year. And this was highlighted with the board. It's 18% over last year on the regular program side and 16% over last year in the extra budgetary side. So it equates to about 98% of the regular program budget we project to be implemented by the end of the year. If you haven't made those contracts, it's too late. Okay. And a few years ago, we were talking with the board about, we had a healthy cash reserve rollover. Part of it had to do with lower implementation rate, but the board asked that we put together a plan for investment and other things. So we have lowered that operating reserve. And that's partly due to the investments that we've done in the Paris building, in all 3 offices, in IT infrastructure, in institutional information systems, as well as recruitment and staff development. So investment funds used for that. Now, on the not so good side, there's a lot of uncertainty about Norway's support in 2019. Norway is a core funder for many years, but in 2018, their support declined by 40% because of a political disagreement with UNESCO, not with IEP. And we don't really know whether it will go back up. We lost $1.2 million in 2018. So we're uncertain, and so we had to pay attention to that in the financial scenarios. We also lost money to the exchange rates. The dollar has increased in value, and so we lost just under $500,000 when the core funding came in. This can be significant. We also had lower implementation of project funds versus what we budgeted, and lower cost recovery, about $0.8 million less than planned. And this is for various reasons. It's often, there are delays in project for reasons that are outside our own control. And we have a continued economic crisis in Argentina, which is hitting the Buenos Aires office in terms of contracts, etc. It's a very difficult time in Argentina with the government restructuring, etc. So sometimes we have been growing. You recall that back in 2013 and 14 with the restructuring, Paris had declined in numbers significantly, and now we're back up to the numbers that we had previously. But with that comes, regular, an increasing staff budget, of course. So we have to pay a lot of attention to that. If in the institute, if you have no staff growth, you still have to budget 10% more each year because 5% goes into the stabilization reserve and 5% is for step increases, so that growth can catch up to you. All right, so what does it mean? So back in 2016, when we had a lot of cash operating reserves, the board asked that we try to reserve 25% of that per year. So when we look at the scenarios, we're not able to do that in 2020 if I mean, we have to work with certain assumptions. So we're watching that. We're very concerned that we won't be able to meet that that requirement. And the board has asked that we relook at that because we have a healthy stabilization reserve. That's the budget, the special account if we had to close. Don't worry, we're not closing. But if we had to close, you have to be able to pay off all staff costs. So that's very, very healthy and has become far healthier in the last 4 years. So, but it does mean recruitment, particularly in Paris, is going to be a bit slower. And some of the regular program expenditures will be slower. And I want to remind program specialists and all the offices of the necessity, regardless of what team you're in, to engage in cost recovery activities. Now, that could be that you're bringing in research funds that cover your costs, or you're participating in technical cooperation projects, or you're finding training money that helps cover your costs. But this is really important. In the last few years, we've kind of slipped. This is a norm, an IEP norm. People in all teams, I mean, value the fact that we do all sorts of things. We carry out the functions of the different program teams, but we need to be sure that all program specialists are assisting with this effort. Any questions on that before we move on to the next issue? No? Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Paul to talk to us about the M&E plan and what was said.
Thank you, Sue. It's always on me, the M&E plan. But there are good news. You know that at the 57th board, our medium-term strategy was approved, except from the M&E plan. So we had to go back to the drawing board and present to the executive committee of the board M&E plan that was adopted in early July this year. And the demand from the board was it should be very much more outcome and impact oriented. And it's not easy, to really in a medium-sized institution, to go up to the impact. So we had an extensive effort, and it's been along all line of works, for technical cooperation. It has been in exploring how we could see how we have the outcome with ladders of change, with outcome mapping. In training, it's about implementing the Kirkpatrick scale. In research, it's more a theory of change. So I invite all of you to refer to the last board document, the updated M&E plan with its technical annexes, and we'll have, of course, to implement more. It has started implementation, but we'll have to implement more. And we know that the governing board is really focusing on it, and there are high expectations on that, and we've committed to. They're happy with the strategy, but we have to deliver, and this has started. So that's basically, in a nutshell, the message on the M&E plan. There were, I think, general agreement on that. There is a specific more monitoring part of it where they express, that our capacity to report on what we do, the volume we do it, and the characteristic of the project has improved a lot over the years. And this is thanks to our effort in the information systems. And now we are starting to interface, my project, the new CRM, Orion for training, at least in Paris. And this brings huge added value in the way we report. And we must say that even the headquarters is looking at our system as an example of how to go forward. So we've got a good mix of acknowledgement and praise for what we did for the MNE, and also a lot to implement in the coming year. Next slide. Okay, so we work that with Sue. We had a lot on our plate and this year, so some regular events we hold were a little slowed this year. In particular, the program meeting, when we get together and one of the team explains what it is doing, and we had many feedbacks that it was very useful. So we want to start this again, sharing what each other is doing, and encompassing all three offices on that, because that's been mostly missing except for some staff meeting. We would like also to well, I'll take in the, not in that order, but to restart the project reviews, which are more focused on some projects with, challenges and are high stakes, and we want to support their implementation. And something new, we want to introduce portfolio reviews, actually looking at office level or at team level, or sometimes at sub-team level, like technical cooperation, what our portfolio look like. Is it aligned with our strategy? How good is the performance? Do we have enough resource, human resource and financial resource to implement it? And what, correcting costs has to be taken in case there are, or how much help we can get. So this will be news, and we'll, I think we have a zoom on that on the next slide. There is also the follow-up on evaluation of distance course. There have been a lot of achievements and progress on that front, and our offer is really looking good, but there is, this plan to evaluate it and really to look at it more closely. And as I was saying, we have to implement some of the way we evaluate our project, in particular in training, and there would be support to Paul de Dakar and Buenos Aires in implementing the Kirkpatrick way to evaluate our training courses. So a little zoom on the portfolio reviews, which are really the new things to do. And we are, starting our second year of the implementation of the MTS. So it's a good time, to take stock of where we are in the implementation through the portfolios. So what are the purpose? To get a better sense of the alignment with strategy, performance, commitment of resources. I already said which level it would apply. And we want to have a rather tight timeline for that. We want that by the end of June, we would have covered all IEP project portfolio. We'll test on some teams or sub-teams to see, what would be the ideal format. It could be a half day, a full day. But in any case, there would be preparatory work, of course, updating the characteristic of the portfolio and the projects, in my projects, and meeting with team leaders to prepare in advance. It is convened by director's office, but there will be a cross team preparation and preparation, and then there will be follow up in what we take from this exercise in terms of prioritization, human and financing needs, etc. And it will be, of course, discussed collegially with teams. So this is something new. So in all, with the program session, the project reviews, the portfolio reviews, will own better our portfolio and program implementation. So that's the whole purpose for it. Sue?
And let me say that portfolios are not just technical cooperation projects. Portfolios could be the set of distance courses, or they could be a range of things. Could be the research portfolio, for example. But the idea is to have a big picture look and to be able to set some. I mean, we're limited in our human resources, financial resources, to look at what are the priorities and plan accordingly. So look forward to that. So I'm sorry that Guillaume is not here. He's telecommuting. Hello, Guillaume. So it just falls to me to share with you what was said about the external evaluation of the office in Paul de Dakar. And we talked with the board about our thoughts on the proposed evolution of the office. So in brief, the findings were very positive. So they identified, this was an externally done evaluation by ICON. The team in Dakar knows that we presented the draft findings back in October when we had IEP Paul de Dakar Partners Day. So there are certain strengths were highlighted, like efficient operations, coherence, the reputation, the ability of the office to learn. There was a sense that the work of Paul de Dakar contributes to robust planning in countries, and the evaluators felt that there had been very good integration of Paul de Dakar in the global IAP. So they were looking from 2013 through 2017. Also, they felt there was good governance, but that the funding modality was constraining the office, particularly for its evolution. Something which the IAP leadership has been also arguing. So we mapped out 3 main legs to the evolution effort: to strengthen the capacity development function, to ensure that the office is serving all of Africa. This is not to the exclusion of Paris at all, and to continue the integration within the global IAP. So on this first leg of the evolutionary plan, it's to try to support the office, the colleagues in Paul de Dakar to adopt the integrated capacity development approach in their work, to really strengthen their ability to do capacity development in many forms: coaching, training in country, etc., and to develop new courses. So right now, Paul de Dakar has a very strong PSGSE, which is a program for the support of sector diagnosis and management, which is offered in French in collaboration with Université Cheikh Anta Diop. We are on the hunt for a new Anglophone African university so that the SAMES course, which is the English equivalent, can be restarted again. And the office is also planning to have some shorter courses in TVET management and eventually on the quality management, so that their 2 very large programs will also lead to new training courses. The second thrust is to serve all of Africa. So this means, I didn't change this. I should have said Lusophone and Anglophone Africa, because our new board member from Brazil, from ECLAC, kept pointing out to me that Lusophone was also important. So we want to prioritize staff recruitment with expertise from Lusophone and Anglophone Africa, to develop an outreach plan for Lusophone and Anglophone Africa, and to partner with an Anglophone university for SAMES. So this is something we have to pay attention to every day and in all of our efforts. And then as far as the continuing integration of IAP Paul de Dakar into the Global Institute, so you may be aware that we had not been giving program activity regular program allocations previously. In 2019, Paul de Dakar's regular program budget is integrated into the rest of the institutes. It's not separate or listed only in extra budgetary. And that's because we anticipate, it's part of the evolution, but also we anticipate that the off-day money will come in as core funding. But that does mean that we need to get further along with programmatic integration. our technical cooperation missions have been, a number of them have been joint with the Dakar office, and we need to do a lot more of that. We'll also have to have a lot of conversations about subsidiarity, um, a word that it's not an American word at all, but it's if you living in the EU for many years, everybody knows the term. But basically, finding out who's going to lead on what, and we have to work through on the geographic mandate. Paris has been working in Africa since 1963. So what lines of work will Paul de Dakar lead versus the Paris team in regards to the African continent? We've already sorted out some things. For example, communications is decentralized to each office, although we ask Paris to convene regular coordination meetings. The library supports all three offices. Admin and director's office, of course, also supports them. But on the program side, we have a lot of conversations to do. We are moving forward in having a common monitoring framework and practices, but as it was mentioned in an earlier slide, we need to do more to support, for example, a training evaluation framework in Paul de Dakar. And financial integration, I think, starts from January 1st. So that's in a nutshell what we went over with the team. Now I had hoped that Jim, Uga, Michaela would be back from the recruitment panel, but so that Jim could now report on this. He's not here, so I'll go ahead. We had Oxford Policy Management did a marketing study of Paris training. Took place between September and November. We got the first draft of the report right before the board, and I think it's been shared with many of you. And we have to have a lot more discussions about the implications of this report. They had two tracks of findings, two tracks of recommendations. One related to better communication, and another one related to the evolution of the training program. And Jim, with some others, have identified a few next steps, which you'll be hearing more about for the new year. We have to have internal discussions. You know, the teaching staff is very important. Their ownership of training program is quite important, and we want to discuss with them the findings and the implications. But it's clear we're going to have a marketing and communication strategy. The OPM identified 7 different audiences that we could target in such a strategy. They also highlighted something that we may not have given much thought to, and that is, what's the experience like for somebody who applies for IP training? And evidently, it's not the best. And we need to do things to make that recruitment journey a lot more friendly, and which it does not discourage people. It, in fact, encourages them and keeps them active in that process. We also need to work on a multi-year plan for the training offer. And of course, we've been extremely successful in recent years in connecting our capacity development projects in countries to the training, budgeting for ATP or ESP fellowships or distance course fellowships. And we need to continue to do that, do some more. So in 2019, we'll be looking at a wide range of ideas, brainstorming together about the future of ESP and ATP particularly. And some ideas came up. There was from the board, which we'll share with you. They're not at all thought through, so I hesitate to say one because it might be taken as something that's more firm than it actually is. So that was one of the strategic issues we took to the governing board this year. And then the one you've really been waiting for, the risk management register. Yeah. Who's read it? Okay, come on. Team leaders better raise their hands. Come on. Yeah. So this is something that got started in 2017. UNESCO as a whole has it had a risk strategy that never quite fully rolled out, etc. And then it got new life, and now units throughout UNESCO are being urged to have a risk register. This is basically a matrix in which you're mapping what are the risks, what's the nature of the risks, how severe is it, how likely and how severe would the impact be, and then how do you mitigate it, and then after you mitigate, how likely and how severe is that risk. So our register was first drafted in 2017 and shared with the board last year, and we've updated it a couple times during the year. The management team in Paris had a meeting with some internal oversight service consultants who were specialists on fraud and corruption risks, and that was so we added some risks to that, and then all three offices were asked to feed into this risk register. So the board was appreciative of the updates, the inclusion of fraud and corruption risks, and would like to hear every year on an update on the risk register. The board, wanting to move to spend their time on strategic issues, feels that risk management is a strategic issue for them. But they also push that we update it at least twice a year. So that is available in the I think it's in the document, the GB documents. And okay, so I've now gone through the 5 of the 6 strategic issues that we brought to the board. The final one, just say a word about. So the General Conference of, I have no idea what number it was, in 2017, the General Conference had a working group on governance. There was a desire to have to improve the governance of all the many bodies, governing bodies that exist in UNESCO, including those that are for conventions, etc. So the institutes were asked to report, or to the governing councils of the institutes were asked to report back on the implementation of some of the recommendations of that working group and feed into continued evolution of those recommendations. So the board had, back in 2017, written quite a lot. The board, not surprisingly, is coming out strongly in favor of IAP's governance model, which is unique among all institutes. So our governing board is far more independent than any of the others. All the others have their governing board members are either appointed by the General Conference or by the Director General. And for us, 4 of them are nominated by heads of UN organizations through the Director General, but the other 8, we inform the Director General of who the board elected. So it's also a board where people serve in their individual capacity. So even though we have a World Bank representative, we don't expect that Nina Arnold is talking for the World Bank. We hope that she will share with us World Bank experiences, but she's serving in her individual capacity. And this is also somewhat unique. In a lot of the Institute boards, they're member state representatives looking for member state benefits in the governance decisions. And we think that our board is a better model for institutes which are supposed to be technical, highly specialized. So their report back to the General Conference president will reflect this, and they'll talk about some of the efficiencies that they put in place. One of the things they did this year, we had 2 days only, so it was quite crunched. 2 days, and we managed to get through the agenda, fortunately. Okay, so any questions on the governing board? Any questions from our, no? How many of you were there? How many of you sat in on part of it? Yeah, it was a really great crowd. And I want to say that almost to the individual board member, when they first spoke about the program, they each of them praised the Institute for how much was accomplished in 2018. They were very impressed with the the implementation rate, but also the wide range of things that were accomplished and were captured in our annual report. So I really think that it's important for the staff to hear that. There are, you look at how much more we expended, how much more that you just read GB4 Part 2, and you really have a sense of how much was accomplished over the years. So congratulations to everybody. Any questions, observations? Aurora. Okay, I'll repeat because well, the interpreters can't hear you. Yeah, that should work.
Thank you. I have a question about the fraud and corruption risk included in the risk management register. Is there any initiative for next year for training for staff? For staff training
in fraud and corruption
in,
risks?
Corruption, or we are joining UNESCO in the same package? Or have we?
No. So the fraud and corruption risks that are in IP's register are modified from a very, very long list that was shared from the UNESCO consultants. So they're specific to IP. So I think it's worthwhile having sharing those and having a discussion with them, and we could do it, globally, or we can do it per team for discussion. I think a lot of them relate to admin and finance and human resource issues, and I think that we should revisit, the likelihood and how severe they are, because one thing was, financial mismanagement, for example. The board said, but IP is extremely well financially managed. I don't think what you've listed is way too high as likelihood. So we can revisit some of those rankings for that. Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay. All right. So it is time at the end of the month to say farewell to a number of colleagues in the Buenos Aires office. These colleagues, some of whom have been with us a very long time, will be leaving IP Buenos Aires. And I want to mention each one of those individually. So Laura Fumagalli, and I know some of you met some of them here in Paris, and some colleagues in Dakar, because they were active in the last global retreat, which we had in 2017. So Laura Fumagalli has been coordinator in IP Buenos Aires and with the Institute since 2000. And so she's leaving at the end of the year. Teresa Lugo, also a coordinator, has been with us since 2003, and she'll be leaving. Violeta Ruiz is coordinator, and she's been with IAP since 2010, and she's retiring. And then we have from the admin side of things, Cecilia Mata has been program assistant and with us since 2007. Maximo Fioravanti is administrative assistant at the office since 2007. Martin Mazet has been working as a clerk messenger since 2016. And Elena Medina has been working as a cleaner in the office since 2016. So all 7 of them will be leaving us, and I just want to give a heartfelt best wishes. Thank you very, very much for all the contributions that they've made to IEP, the global IEP. I'm glad that they've been part of the last few years in which we've really had a better connection between Buenos Aires and Paris and Dakar, and we wish them very, very well in their future adventures. So let's have a round of applause for these colleagues. Okay, so now I'd just like to do some highlights on the next year, looking at some of the main events, and I'm sure I'm missing some things. So please let me know what those might be. Oh, I forgot to add. I hope everyone has seen the new Pole Mag, which is on financing education, and the new IEP letter is coming out this week, and it's on teachers. So I'd like to give a shout out to all those that have contributed to these two newsletters. Thank you very much. They're really beautiful. So looking to 2019. In January, we've got a number of things. So in Paris, we've got the start of the residential phase of ESP and ATP. So make sure everybody's here in Paris here for the 7th of January. That is just one party after another for the participants. We've got the Galette de Roi, a welcome cocktail. Then there's I think in February we'll have a association party, etc. Paris and Dakar teams will be participating in a workshop for independent plan appraisers. This is a collaboration with GPE. This will be the third run of this course, and this one will be held in Dakar. Is it in English and French, or just French, or both? They're trying to do both. So we'll have at least 2 people going to Dakar, and a lot of colleagues from Dakar participating. This appraisal course is being developed so that it can be fully online, but this next iteration will have a residential piece. In the end of January 24-25, we've got Muriel has organized an open government methodological meeting. Dates are still right. And where is it? Close to Paris, at a secret location. And then some from IEP will be participating in the Building Evidence in Education, known as BE Squared meeting, which is being hosted by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, but is actually being held in Oxford. And then in Dakar, we have the second of the big regional workshops for the EU FPI funded program on crisis sensitive planning. It's going to involve colleagues from Pôle de Dakar as well as Paris, and those plans are well on their way. That'll be a big meeting. In February, we've got, so the PSGSE is at its 12th promotion, and so they have the periodic workshop happening the week of the 11th of February. As I said, the third of many parties for the ESP ATP participants. And then the cost effectiveness of early childhood is having a workshop in Gambia that involves both Paris and Pôle de Dakar. In March, we have, I love this. It was in my calendar. The Buenos Aires office is closed for Carnival. We should all live in Latin America. We expect to participate in the PAL network. That is a network of organizations that do civil society assessments of learning, and it's being held in Islamabad. We like to connect with them. Lynn Sargent is in touch and is likely to be the one participating. It's their first research conference, and I think it has good implications for quality management project and also for the use of learning assessment data research. Right now, we only have one strategic debate in Paris that's scheduled. It's Dan Wagner on the 5th of March, but more will be coming. Another ESP, ATP party. And then the large quality management project is going to have its workshop with the second circle of countries in late March. And then the Swedish funder SIDA is going to be doing a field trip to Senegal, and they're going to be visiting one of the innovation projects of PFOP. So that's what I've got so far. And if you've got a major event that's not on this list, please let Ramatoulaye know, and we'll update the event. Any questions? Of course, Paris has its holiday party Wednesday afternoon at 5 o'clock. Don't forget, bring the kids, please. And don't forget your gifts. Can we announce who Santa Claus is? No, sorry, it's a surprise. Okay, so now here's a quiz. at which of these SDG 4 targets are we not addressing? .6? Nope. 4B. 4B, exactly. 4B is on scholarships, and we're not doing much on scholarships except giving some to female participants in ESP, ATP. So, if I went round the room, could you identify what we're doing in each of these areas? I'm sure. Stephanie, what are we doing in 4.7? Where's Stephanie? What are we doing in 4.7?
Thank you, Sue. This is quite easy for us, for the team, because we are working on comprehensive HIV and sexuality education that is related with 4.7, that is related to school environment, climate within the school, and maybe other colleagues as well work on that.
And how are we working on it?
We have this very long collaboration with headquarters, Chris Castle team. It's been more than 10 years that we work together. We work on EMIS, how to integrate core indicators that can evaluate comprehensive sexuality education into EMIS. And we have been also working a lot about on MEE. And during last 2 years, we did 3 distance courses. And next year, we are supposed to measure the impact of those 3 distance courses.
Great. Great. Thank you very much. What's another one that might not be so obvious? 4A is about school infrastructure. Can anybody suggest how it is we're working on that? Anybody here from the crisis cluster? What did we experiment with in Ethiopia? Who's here that went to Ethiopia for this? Think GIS?
Thank you for the hint, Sue. So that work in Ethiopia funded by UNICEF and DFID is about school mapping, crisis sensitive planning. So I guess that clearly sits under 4A.
Yeah, thank you. And is Harim here?
No, I was looking for him.
Yeah, is Denisa here? So maybe something else to do with school infrastructure, Togo.
So we're working in Togo on school mapping, and we did our workshop on the diagnosis this year, and hopefully to extend next year as well. So we're moving forward on that.
Great, thank you. So we have a course, an SCP, a specialized course on micro planning and school mapping, which has been in existence quite a long time, and it's been updated, and we get the top leader in GIS application, Esri, is part of that course, right? So there's quite a lot. So you may not think we're not actually designing schools, but we advise on the placement of schools and including through the school mapping. Okay, how about literacy and numeracy skills? 4.6. So here we've kind of taken a particular angle on this, and this is on the use of learning data and the management of quality, including learning in the big quality management project in Pôle de Dakar. Okay, last one. Easy one. Skills for decent work. 4.4, correct. Yes. Well, our live stream audiences could certainly answer this. Come on. what's the name of the program in Dakar? Excuse me? PFOP. PFOP, a program that's been going for a number of years that is supporting initially 4 countries in improving the implementation of TVET policies. It's now expanded to a wider range. They have a very strong online platform, and it's leading to the design of a new course on the management of TVET. In addition, we have the work by CITIAL that is quite strong in this area that will continue. CITIAL, you know, has been reconfigured and there's a big emphasis on that. Okay, Paris needs to study up, I think, on the SDG 4 targets and what IP is doing. But yes, Miyoko.
You said that we're not doing anything on 4B. It's about scholarship, right? But
Yeah,
we are actually doing something directly. IAP is giving scholarship to
Yes.
female participants, so that
I'm
could
not
be
sure
part-
our 2 are going to be counted in when it all comes in. Yeah, it's really this is a target that was set at Incheon, and the aim was for the least developed countries to have access to more international fellowships for studying abroad. It's true, we have 2, but I'm not sure that quite qualifies. Well, I don't highlight it because UNESCO General is not doing and not monitoring that. Well, UAS has to monitor it for things, but headquarters is not. Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Any comments online? No, you still alive out there? Okay. Yes, Asun. Great.
Two announcements. First one will be in French. As you don't understand French, it's not what's coming. Demain.
Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, as part of a morning organized by the professionals in education, my colleague is going to present and introduce to you new portals. So if you're interested, and then at 11 o'clock, I'm going to talk about the library. You're going to be less interested because you know and you're quite familiar with the library.
Online, right?
No, online.
No,
You have to come
okay.
here. If you want.
You have to go down to Sev.
Yeah, it's here in the auditorium.
Oh, it's here.
It's
Okay.
here, it's here.
Okay.
It's here. And you also coffee and pastries lobby. So you can also
Don't
share
tell
this.
people that.
And
what time is the coffee break?
And Claire will.
So sadly, Baptiste is leaving at the end of the month this week, because this week is his last week. So I have papers for anyone who leaves a note, and there's a box here. We thought we would do something after lunch, but apparently there's a lot of people at the headquarters and everything. So we're gonna do a surprise during the Christmas party and give him his presents. So I don't know who sent up, but I hope he has a gift planned for
Okay.
Baptiste.
Thank you very much. I should mention that the governing board visited the library, and that was great that they were able to squeeze that in. Something else, we've been having quite the baby boom. So, who's back? So Anna Seeger's back from maternity leave. We hope to see a baby Wednesday. Beefit had a baby. Tessa had a baby. Amelie had a baby. Emily had a baby. Who am I missing? Villivon had a baby this year. And Marianne is about to have a baby. France had a baby. Hands up if you had a baby this year. Yay! Did I miss anybody? Anybody else have a baby? Erin had a baby. Erin Heba, yes. Huh? Who? Oh, yes, Claude. Claude, are you here? No. Claude had a baby. Really? Yes. Don't let anybody say we're not productive. Okay. Anyway, felicitation to all those IEP babies. It's fantastic. Well, thank you. So now the microphone is open. Anybody have other things to share? Okay. All right. So, oh, Morton has something to share. Ah, yes, great. Finally, the Afghanistan program is moving forward.
That is true. We've been stuck in quite some bureaucracy because we are working with UNESCO HQ and with UNESCO Kabul office. So an agreement that was signed 26th of June took us till now to actually be able to spend funds, have a budget code and WBS elements and all that. We hope to do a mission of IIP professional staff from different teams in January, probably the week of the 21st, but that's to be confirmed. And there will also be some participation of headquarters colleagues in that mission. So Koyano, for those who know her. So we're looking forward to finally move together, and there's actually quite a lot to deliver on this program. Many missions with people from different units to be involved. So we hope to also have a meeting of professional staff. I presume that would probably be in the beginning of the new year, seeing that everybody's busy trying to work
Great.
now. Also, the ministry counterpart for our work during the last many years and also in the 2 years to come, the DG Planning, Mr. Aryan, who has visited IIP before, is supposed to come here on the 24th of Jan, provided he gets his visa. So that will also be an opportunity to discuss the program with him.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So this is a reminder to everybody in Paris. We previously had a meeting to share the design of the Afghanistan project, and now after some delay, we're gonna put the work plan together. Thank you. Anybody else? Any IT thing you want to mention, France? Yeah, France. Okay, Miyoko, and then France.
The other day, the headquarters announced
Yes.
something about the geographical mobilization,
Yeah.
which also applies IIP. It only applies to the fixed term staff, and I'd like to know the implication for the IIP because
Sure.
ADG announced that the IIP, well,
Institute.
institute
Yes.
will be also part of this scheme,
Right.
and so
Right.
we wish to know
How's that work?
how practically that would work for the IIP. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank
Okay. You should know that IP staff are in demand. I have several regional officers, regional directors who are like, I think you should place an IP staff in my office. So if you are interested, so the new or renewed mobilization strategy, staff mobilization strategy to people in established posts, peace staff in established posts. If you are interested, you should let me know. The director has say in whether or not each institute, whether they can afford to have somebody move. But I think it's a tremendous professional opportunity for people. We also be interested in short-term or longer-term staff circulation across the IEP offices. And that's also interesting. For Buenos Aires, you pretty much have to be able to speak Spanish. But we think that could be a great opportunity. Could be, I mean, the most productive is at least 3 months, but if that's not possible, we can talk about other options. And I think that will also help us with, it's great professional exposure, but also help us with the integration of the offices. Okay. France.
I thought I just announced that after 2 missions this year, one to Dakar and one to Buenos Aires, these 2 offices are now fully integrated with Paris and with HQ.
What does that mean practically?
That means they have access to everything we have access to. Their mails are hosted here as well. All the websites are here.
Okay.
They have access to SAP, to Duo, automatically without having to go through Connect or any of these other hoops. So
Okay.
that makes it easier for them to get their work done.
Yes.
And at the same time, that allows us to share things more easily, which we will see later. By the start of next year, we'll do a quick workshop on what that means for the three offices to share information and to work more closely together.
Including through the
And-
box.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And also, when you travel with your IIEP laptop, you get automatic connection in any of these to other offices without any effort on your part. And also, the new staff Wi-Fi is also available in these two offices. So when you travel, your personal devices can also have Wi-Fi connectivity, no problem.
Okay. Great.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Thanks. We've seen a lot of upgrades on the IT infrastructure. All right. Any other comments? Any comments from our colleagues? Well, I wish everyone wonderful holidays. The Paris team still has the opportunity to get together Wednesday afternoon from 5 o'clock with a surprise Santa Claus. I'm not allowed to say. And we hope we'll see some of these new babies and some of the older babies. But to everybody in the Institute, félicitations, best wishes for the end of the year, and we move forward together in 2019. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. And good thing I thanked the interpreters at the beginning, because I always forget at the end.